order for us to grow, we have to walk into that wilderness season. And when I say wilderness, wilderness has to happen by ourselves. And sometimes the wilderness is out here in the wilderness and you're alone. And then sometimes it's diving off of that diving board and jumping. You have to do it in order to grow.
Hey, you guys, I'm back, and this is actually week 7. I'm wrong. Please forgive me. Listen, in the spirit of authentic living, please accept my dearest apologies. But I made a mistake. I kept saying week 5 and week 6, but this is actually week 7. So I made a mistake. So to make sure I don't make that mistake again, your girl's gonna stop numbering our sessions. Okay, so this is week 7. I won't number them again, but I had a little laugh, and I was like, oh my God, I made a mistake. So count it here and not here. Okay, now so last week we touched on that authentic living, and I kind of talked about how do I make sure I continue to live my life authentically daily, and some of the things that I do to make sure that I live my life daily. And then I actually asked you guys to pray for me because there's something that I'm still working on, and I need your prayers with that. I need your help with that. So I hope that you have lifted your girl up, and I hope that he's going to be moving on those prayers that you sent on my behalf, because I actually need some help with that. So today I want to talk about why in the world do we ignore our intuition? For real, why do we do that? That's like a really simple, but it's kind of like a deep question. Why in the world do we ignore our God-given intuition? I don't know how many times I've done it. I know that you've done it. Why in the world do we do that? So many people quote Maya Angelou with when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe it. And that's so powerful. And I'm so grateful for those beautiful words. God rest her soul. Those were just such beautiful and powerful words. When somebody shows you who they are the first time, you really should believe it. But for some reason, and I'm, believe it or not, I am still guilty of this a little bit, of ignoring that intuitive spirit. And I have to ask myself sometimes, like, why in the world do I do that? And the answer is simple. We succumb to our human desires. We don't want to believe what somebody has shown us. We don't want to believe it. And so we succumb to our human desires. And sometimes, you all, we've gotten so bad that we actually will cling to this thing right here, our Bible, to validate our ignoring our intuition. We will find scripture to validate our intuition. And believe it or not, that's silly. And I have to admit, you all, I've never done that. I have never opened up this beautiful thing here called the Bible and tried to validate why I decided to ignore my spirit. But what I have done, I've gone to people. I have created like these small little people campaigns where I get maybe like some like-minded people together and put in my opinion out there, and knowing that they're going to validate my ignoring that intuitive spirit, I go there, they give me what I need, and so bam, my ignoring that intuitive spirit has been validated or somehow justified. So why do we do that, you all? Why in the world do we do that? We do it for money. We do it for societal approval. We do it in our relationships, whether they're friendly or intimate. We have been given this intuitive spirit for a reason. It really does keep us honest. It really does keep us living our lives the most authentically that we really can. But somehow, our human desires sometimes can become so strong that we are willing to ignore our intuition. We see it in our everyday lives. We see it in the legislative hallways. We see it in the schoolhouse hallways. We see it in our homes. We have been given this intuitive spirit for a reason. It is God given, you all. So I really want to really go into that a little bit. So this is something funny. I got married very early in life. I got married when I was 23 and a half years old. So that's like a baby compared to people waiting today to get married. And I often joke with some of my friends and I say there is no way that I could be in the dating world right now, because I see so many people ignoring that intuitive spirit while they're dating. Somebody comes to to a relationship showing you exactly what they're going to do very often in the long run in the relationship. But because our human desires are so strong and we want to be with that person maybe for companionship, we ignore it. And I'm so grateful God sent the man of my dreams as early as he did, and I was able to get married when I was 23 years old, because your girl can't be out. I just could not be out there dating today. Shout out to you all who are still trying to not ignore that intuitive spirit and are really trying to live your lives as authentically as you can, and you find that Boaz, and you find that woman who is that Proverbs 31 woman, or that the Ephesians 6 woman. Shout out to you all. And then we all sometimes find ourselves ignoring our intuitive spirit when we are seeking entrepreneurship, and this is where your girl did that kind of recently. When I say recently, probably within the last year. I tried certain things, and I just knew that they were not for me, but because of what it appeared to have done for someone else, I ignored my intuition. I ignored that authentic spirit, and I tried it anyway. How do you think that ended up? Right. It didn't go the way that it went for that other person. You see? And that's another thing. Just because something works for someone else entrepreneurially, you don't necessarily have to be a carbon copy to make it work. You really, really do not. So listen to your intuitive spirit. Now, going into superficial relationships. Here I am again. I can raise my hand again. When I found myself broken and when I found myself lost out there, superficial relationships became a little important to me. People would show me exactly who they were, but because of those human desires of necessarily, I guess, being viewed by this society over here or that society over there, I ignored it so that I could find myself, I guess, a part of it all. But I was ignoring my intuitive spirit, thus ignoring authenticity. And then there is that intuition in marriage. Okay? Yeah. So here I am. Like I said, I got married at 23 years old. You can do the math. You can, I guess, tell how old I am. I've been married in, I guess, a little over a month, 15 years. My husband and I will be married 15 years in a little over a month. And there are some things that we actually ignore even in our marriage. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some times in a marriage where you actually do need to ignore a few things. But for the sake of authenticity and for the sake of living your most authentic self, God does not want you to ignore that intuitive spirit, even in that marriage. Again, there are some things that you do ignore, but there are some things that you shouldn't ignore, even in your marriage. That God-given intuition is dope. I'm telling you, it really is. And so you really should embrace it like that. You really should, in your relationships, on your job, if you're seeking entrepreneurship, if you are dating, you're single, you're dating, you're wanting to do what the Lord is telling you to do. You all, I'm telling you, this intuitive spirit is God-given, and it keeps you honest. It keeps you living your most authentic self. I get it. Our human desires can be so strong and so overwhelming. We want this, but our intuitive spirit is telling us that we don't need it. I get it. But you all, and I tell you, I mean, I'm not perfect. So there are some times where I still have to find myself in prayer with this too. But we got to do it together, you all. If we're truly going to live this journey of living our most authentic self. And I'm going to tell you all, this is the thing too. I started the More movement, and I'm not going too far away from this, but I started the More movement because when I found myself broken in that wilderness season, broken, I knew that I wanted more out of life. I needed more out of life, and I deserved more out of life. That is the reason I started the More movement. And again, the backbone, the command center of the More movement, the heartbeat of the More movement is authentic living. And again, one of the ways to make sure that you live your life just authentically as you possibly can is to not ignore that intuitive spirit. Listen to your intuition. It's God-given. It's God-given, you all, and it's dope. So look, y'all, let's give the universe more of what it is craving, and that is authenticity, and that is love. Hit your girl up on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter, and you can always find me on Facebook at The More Movement. I'll see you next week.